Why being present is so hard. What the Buddha actually taught. For a moment, just listen. You don't have to do anything else. Notice your breath. Notice the sounds around you, the feeling of your own body, right where you are. Try to stay right here, in this actual moment, for the next few seconds. Nothing else. If you really tried that, you probably felt how fast your mind left. Maybe it went to something you have to do later, or a conversation from this morning, or a worry about tomorrow. A few seconds, and you were already somewhere else. Being here should be the easiest thing in the world. You don't have to go anywhere, learn anything, or achieve anything first. This moment is already happening on its own, and you are already inside it. And yet staying here, even for a short while, turns out to be one of the hardest things a human being can do. Why? Why is the one place we can never actually leave, right here and right now, also the one place we can almost never stay? That is what I want to sit with today. I don't want to fix you or hand you 5 quick tips. I want to look honestly at why this is so hard, and to share what the Buddha understood about it long ago, which is both more honest and kinder than a lot of the advice we hear today. Here is the first thing worth saying, because almost no one says it out loud. Nobody is good at staying present. Not really. We tend to imagine there are people who have mastered this. Monks on a mountain, teachers who always seem calm. But talk to people who have actually practiced meditation for 20, 30, even 40 years, and they will tell you the same thing. The mind still wanders. They sit down, follow a few breaths, and then catch themselves planning dinner or replaying some old memory with no idea how long they had been gone. The wandering never fully stops. What changes over the years is only how they respond to it. So, if your mind drifts the second you try to focus, I want you to hear this clearly. There is nothing wrong with you. You have not failed, and you are not bad at this. This is simply what a human mind does, every mind, all the time. Yours is behaving exactly the way minds behave. This is not some new discovery either. Around 2,500 years ago, the Buddha was already describing this same restless mind. In the Dhammapada, there is a whole chapter on the mind, the Cittavagga. In verse 35, he puts it plainly. The mind is hard to control. Swift and light, it lands wherever it pleases. To tame it is good, for a tamed mind brings happiness. And in verse 37, it wanders far and moves alone, formless, hidden in its cave. Those who master it are set free. Read those lines today, and they sound like they were written about us. The people listening to him back then were struggling with the exact thing we struggle with the moment we try to be still. And here is a detail worth pausing on. Those people had no phones, no email, no endless feed pulling at their attention. Many were monks who had walked away from everything and lived in the forest with almost nothing. If distraction were purely a modern problem, they should have found it simple to rest in the present. But they didn't. They wrestled with the same wandering mind we do, which tells us this goes deeper than technology. Our phones make it worse, but they did not create it. Modern science has arrived at the same place from a different direction. Some years ago, 2 Harvard researchers ran a study on exactly this. They built a phone app that reached thousands of people at random moments and asked them what they were doing, whether their mind was on it, and how happy they felt. What they found was striking. People's minds were somewhere other than the present for close to half of their waking hours. And when the mind had wandered off, people tended to be less happy, whether it had wandered toward something pleasant or something unpleasant. The simple act of leaving the present seemed to be its own small source of unhappiness, running underneath the day, mostly unnoticed. And that is where we begin. This struggle is real, it is ancient, and it is shared by everyone who has ever tried to be still. The real question is what to do once we stop blaming ourselves. If this isn't our fault, and it isn't only the phone, then what keeps pulling the mind away? So what is it? What actually pulls the mind away, again and again, even after we have clearly decided we want to stay? Watch your own mind closely for a while, and a pattern shows itself. The mind is almost always reaching for something. It leans towards something a little better than what is here, or pulls back from something it does not like. It wants the next thing, and is rarely content to sit with what is actually in front of it. Now think about what happens when you try to be present. You sit still, you stop chasing the next thing, and all at once the mind has a problem. There is nothing here to reach for, nowhere to run. This plain moment, exactly as it is, gives that reaching nothing to feed on. So the mind does what it has always done. It gets up and goes looking, heading for the past, the future, a fantasy, a worry, anything with a little more to chew on than this bare moment. The Buddha had a word for this reaching. In his language, it was tanha. People usually translate it as craving, though that word sounds heavier and darker than what he meant. At its root, tanha is just this pull towards something else, the wish for more, for something pleasant, for a way out of whatever feels uncomfortable right now. When he laid out the Four Noble Truths, his central teaching about why we suffer, the second one pointed straight here. Our restlessness, our discomfort, our constant dissatisfaction, all of it grows out of this endless wanting for things to be other than they are. And we can watch that force at work in something as small as trying to sit quietly for 2 minutes. But let's be honest about what this reaching actually is, because it looks like one thing while it is usually another. Here is a moment you will recognize. You are sitting somewhere with nothing you have to do, and your hand moves toward your phone on its own. You picked it up before you even decided to, and if you are honest, there was nothing important waiting in there. You were not reaching for information. You were reaching away from something. In that pause, the stillness had begun to feel empty. A small discomfort rose, and before it could fully form, you reached for the phone to make it disappear. This is what the reaching usually is underneath. It looks like we are moving towards something, when most of the time we are moving away from something. When we walk away from the present, we like to call ourselves weak or undisciplined. But that misses what is really going on. We leave because staying here asks us to feel something we have spent most of our lives learning not to feel. That empty restlessness, that vague ache with no name. Leaving is simply easier than staying and feeling it. It is a deeply human thing to do, and once you see it clearly, it asks for compassion rather than blame. And there is real hope buried inside this. The mind wanders because it has been practicing wandering your entire life. Every time you felt that small discomfort and reached for a distraction, you taught the mind to do it again and wore the path a little deeper. This is a habit. It isn't your nature, and it isn't permanent. It is a groove worn into the mind, and a groove can be reshaped. The Buddha said as much. He was honest that the mind is difficult to train and never pretended otherwise, but he insisted over and over that it can be done. In that same chapter, in verse 33, he says it directly. As a fletcher straightens an arrow, so the wise straighten the mind, restless and unsteady, hard to guard and hard to hold. Straightening a bent shaft takes heat and patience. Your mind is like that shaft, bent by long habit, but able to be worked straight by someone patient enough to do it. Which means the wandering you feel when you sit down is not a wall you have run into or proof that you can't do this. It is a sign that the work has begun and that it is genuinely possible. So the restless mind keeps pulling us away, and for most of us that is a real part of the difficulty. But if that were the whole story, trying harder to stay would slowly fix it, and anyone who has tried knows it doesn't work. Something else is going on, and it has to do with the present itself, with what we picture when we try to return to it. Even our way of coming back is shaped by that same reaching. Think about how we usually talk about being present. Live in the moment. Seize the day. We treat the present like a point on a line, the past stretching behind us, the future ahead, and the present a thin slice in the middle that we are supposed to catch before it slips past. There is something that sounds wise about this. But if you remember what we just said about the reaching mind, you will start to see the problem. This is that same reaching all over again. We are told to hold on to the moment, to soak up every drop of it before it slips away, to get the most out of it while it lasts. But it is the same wanting as before, dressed up in spiritual language. We left the present because we were reaching for something else, and now we try to come back to it by reaching again, trying to seize it and make it ours. We are using the very thing that pulled us away as our method for coming home. No wonder it never quite works. Some people fall into the opposite version of this, and it's worth naming too. For them, the present becomes a hiding place. Life feels like too much. The past hurts. The future frightens them, so they use the present as a shelter. Come back to the breath. Stay where it feels safe. From the outside, it can look peaceful, but it is another form of running, a way to go numb, to avoid whatever is difficult. And that also is not what the Buddha was pointing toward. He was not offering people a place to hide from their own lives. So what was he actually teaching? In the Bhattacharata Sutta, he gives an instruction people love to repeat. Do not chase after the past. Do not long for the future. What is past is left behind, and the future has not yet come. And then, right in the middle, there is a line almost everyone skips over, even though it carries the entire meaning. That line is usually translated as something close to this: see clearly the present Dhamma. And the crucial word there is not present. It is Dhamma. Now, Dhamma has several meanings, and here it does not mean the teaching, the way we sometimes use it. Here it means whatever is actually arising in you right now. This sensation in your body, this sound reaching your ears, this thought moving across your mind. The real, living content of this moment, whatever it happens to be. And notice what he tells us to do with it. He does not tell us to enjoy it, or to grab it, or to hide inside it. He tells us to see it clearly, to look at whatever is arising, right where it is. That single word turns the whole picture around. The present stops being a treasure we collect, or a shelter we hide inside, and becomes the one place where we can finally see what is true. You cannot really look at the past, since it is only a memory now, and you cannot look at the future, since it has not arrived. The one thing you can watch as it actually happens is whatever is arising right now. And the verse adds something that is easy to miss. When you watch this way, you are not taken in, and you are not shaken. You see what arises without being swept along by it, without grabbing it and calling it yours. You start to notice what everything in this moment has in common. It is all moving, all of it passing, already on its way out even as you notice it. There is nothing here solid enough to hold. And the moment you see that clearly, something in you understands that holding was never the point. So if the present is something we look at rather than something we hold, and if the wandering mind is really just this old habit of reaching, then something important follows about how we ought to treat that wandering mind. Fighting it is the wrong response. Think about how most people meditate. They sit down, try to focus, the mind wanders, and they get angry at themselves. They treat the wandering like an enemy to be beaten, and every drift becomes one more small defeat, more proof that they are no good at this. But if the wandering is really just a restless mind reaching for comfort, the way a child reaches for something to do, then anger is the wrong tool entirely. You don't calm a restless child by shouting at it, and you don't settle a restless mind by fighting it either. Force only adds more tension, more struggle, more of the very restlessness you were trying to quiet. What actually works looks a lot more like patience. You notice the mind has wandered. You don't turn it into a crime. You simply bring your attention back to where you are, without any story about having failed. Then the mind wanders again, because of course it does, and you bring it back again. Many people believe that this constant wandering means they are doing it wrong, that real meditation would be one long, unbroken stretch of focus. But that is not what meditation is. The bringing back is the practice. That return, repeated 1,000 times, is what meditation really is. And it helps to know that this restlessness has been understood for a very long time. In the Buddhist teachings, there is a well-known list of the 5 common obstacles that rise up whenever a person tries to steady the mind, and one of them is exactly this: the inability to settle, the itch of not being able to sit still. It was named thousands of years ago as one of the normal things that happen to anyone who practices. So when you sit and feel that urge to get up, that pull to be anywhere but here, understand what it is. It has nothing to do with being bad at meditation, or with meditation not being for you. It is one of the most ordinary experiences on the whole path, and feeling it means you have arrived exactly where every practitioner before you has stood. Which brings us back to the heart of all of this. We keep trying to catch the present and keep it, the way we would keep anything we love. But the present was never something you could keep. Close your hand around it, and it is already gone. It does not ask to be owned, only to be seen, and seeing takes nothing from you but your attention. And the moment you stop trying to grab the present, the moment you stop treating it as something you have to win, you find that you are already resting inside it, not holding anything, not chasing anything, just here, watching this moment arrive and pass and give way to the next, which is all it was ever doing anyway. The calm you were chasing was never something you could catch. It arrived on its own the instant you stopped reaching for it. And here is the last thing, the thing I most want to leave with you. You already know this state. You have been here before, even if you never called it being present. Think of a time when you lost someone, and the grief was so total that every thought in your head went silent, and for a while there was nothing but the raw fact of that moment. You were completely present then. Or think of a time when beauty stopped you without warning. A sky, a piece of music, the face of someone you love. And for a second you forgot to narrate your life and simply saw what was in front of you. Or think of being so absorbed in love, or in making something with your hands, that you forgot yourself entirely. In every one of those moments, you fell straight into the present, with no technique and no effort at all. And that tells you something important. The present was never far away, and it was never a reward waiting at the end of years of practice. It has been right here the whole time, closer than your own breath, and the only reason you keep missing it is that you are so often somewhere else, reaching for the next thing. So the whole practice, in the end, comes down to something almost too simple to believe. Being here asks nothing from you. There is nothing to acquire, no distance to cross, no better self to reach first. This moment is already here, already holding you, whether you notice it or not. The only thing ever asked of you is that you stop leaving. That for one breath, you let yourself stay exactly where you already are, and let that be enough.